support Pro Play Games on Patreon.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the free version of the Shenron 5th place deck profile. This is brand new leader from set 14. It's pretty much very thematic, so it builds itself kind of, but then there's a lot of wiggle room for creativity and non-Shadow Dragon cards that you play, which we'll go over. Leader has blocker, and when you play the extra cards, you mill your opponent one, so essentially your main win con is just milling them out by playing a bunch of extra cards, and then when he attacks, discard a Shadow Dragon, draw one, and all your Shadow Dragons get abilities when you discard them, so that kind of seems, you know, it's kind of similar to the whole pitch one, draw two. But yeah, you have to pitch a Shadow Dragon card. When you're at 4 or less, or you have 7 or more Shadow Dragons, that includes like the extra cards. All the extra cards count as Shadow Dragon. So if you have like 7 thematic cards in your drop, you can awaken. Or if you're at 4 or less, you awaken. Just the untap, draw one, which is untap one, draw one, which is pretty standard. Backside also have, front side has blocker, so you can block. And if you block, it's good because then your unison gets counters. Most of the time, your opponent will play around this by attacking your leader, anyways. But that's good because then that means they're not attacking your unison. Backside, same thing. When you play an extra card, mill one. Actually, this side, both players mill one, and then this side, your opponent only mills one. So there's a small little difference, I guess, which helps you awaken on this side because you can get to the 7, anyways. When he attacks, he draws one and gets plus 5k, so he's a 20k leader that also restands. On the other side, he restands too, but this side, he's at least bigger. So he's 15k base, but then 20k offensively, and then he's got the main, activate main battle, Spirit Boost 1 to free play a Shadow Dragon extra card, essentially. Which is pretty good because you can use it in battle or, you know, in the main. And it's once per turn, so you can do it one on your turn, one on your opponent's turn. So, yeah, that's the leader. Pretty nice. I like him. I like the artwork. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I'm going to go over very basic what the deck is. If you want to see an in-depth deck profile and like how these cards were relevant in certain matchups and you want to take this to the next level, make sure you consider checking us out on the Patreon right here. PPG DBS. We have a fantastic team of content creators on there. Some of the best players in the entire game. I'm the worst, so. 2 of the SS4 Bardock Unison, Spirit Resonance. This guy's really good as your backup Unison, and even though he's not your main Unison, simply because he just draws you cards. And then if you remove a marker from this card using Spirit Boost, you can send a card from your opponent's drop to the warp. Not very good, not very relevant. The main part that you really want to care about this guy is not only does he come down with 2, so you can -2 him off the bat to really like stifle aggression, but you can actually +1 him, put him to 3, and obviously block with your leader if your opponent tries to attack him. And then the following turn, you can -2 him while him still being alive, and then it kind of stifles their aggression, and then you can +1 him again, and then go down to -2. Which is really good. That means you get 2 -2 uses out of him, and then he could die, and then he could be replaced by Toa until you see Toa, and he helps you dig for Toa because he draws a card. So this guy's just your backup unison. In the case that you don't see Toa, you only have one way of searching her other than drawing the Toa unison, which is pretty nice, I guess, because some other decks just, hey, draw your unison, or, you know, tough luck. This one comes down for 1, so you can either play an extra card that plays it off the top 7 automatically, or you can just hard cast it for 1. Either way is fine. Obviously, you rather the latter. I mean, you know, playing the ball. But essentially, if you block with your leader, she gains a marker, and every turn she's going to gain 1. So essentially, she can gain 2 markers a turn if your opponent lets you block, which sometimes they'll just attack leader or whatever. Draw 1, choose 1 card in your hand, put it to the bottom, and then the optional thing is putting the up to 3 Shadow Dragon extra cards back to the bottom of your deck, which is cool. It lets you reuse the extra cards, so you have infinite numbers of them technically, so you don't have to run like a max number. And then -7, you can, I mean, this never really popped up for me, but you can reanimate a bunch of dudes, which, you know, you just need the unison so you can have Spirit Boost, honestly. That's really about it. Then the I guess, thematic cards that we play, as well. Like, all these cards are also technically non-thematic because they're not Shadow Dragons, would be Double Haze and the Bardock. So Double Haze is good because it is still a Shadow Dragon, but not a Dark Shadow Dragon. So it does trigger when you discard the Shadow Dragons, but you can't search it or pitch them for this because they specify. So there's some cards that specify Black Shadow Dragon, and then there's others that say, you know, Shadow Dragon. So this is good because it kills anything, you know, Dark Broly, whatever they're trying to like cheat cards in for free. And then you have the SS Bardock Tenacious, which was a flex spot. This could be anything, but this is good because it stifles aggression, and you're a mill deck, a controlling mill deck. So honestly, it's really good. You obviously want to lower the number of non-thematic cards that you play, because the more non-thematic cards you play, the less I guess consistent your all your dudes become. So we'll start off at the bottom, I guess, the 1-drops. The Shenron Wicked Strike. All these have the when come into play, essentially draw a card. You're only not drawing a card when you hit one of these cards. But essentially all the other ones say when you come into play, check the top card of your deck and then draw it if it's on theme. So on theme is pretty much going to be the rest of the deck. The rest of the deck is on theme. So this guy, you know, draw a card on play, and then he lets you get Spirit Boost. Normally, your leader will give you Spirit Boost only on the backside. So this guy's actually really relevant when you're on the front side here, because it lets you Spirit Boost free extra cards. And on the backside, you get the ability twice instead of once. So you'll get this backside effect on your leader and on him if you have him out. So at worst, he's a draw one. He's not, you know, he's not the worst. He's also not my favorite. Next card is the Haze Shenron. This only plays 3 or less energy cost, so it won't be able to play a few cards in your deck, but other than that, paying 1 to cheat out of 3 is essentially really good, which is why we're max copies of this. This is a card that maybe I would find another space for. It just revives an extra card from the drop. So on play, draw a card, and then it searches your drop for an extra card, a Shadow Dragon extra card, and adds it to your hand. So it's kind of like a net too, which I like a lot. Then 3 of the extra card Shadow Dragon cards. This one essentially looks at top 7 and either adds an extra card, or a Shadow Dragon extra card, or it plays the Unison with 1 marker. So it can play the Toa if it's in the top 7 for 1 marker. So this is the only other way to get the Toa out on the field. Obviously, you'd rather get it off the top 7, but there is a possibility that you whiff, but at least if you whiff, you can get an extra card. Because obviously when you play the extra cards, you mill your opponent for 1. So then we play 2 of the Slaying Bullet. This card seems really good off it, but it's not as good in this deck because you can recycle it if you need it again, and you can search it a bunch of ways. So like you typically, if you see all the extra cards, none of them are really maxed because of your being able to like reuse them and stuff like that. But essentially he can kill anything your opponent chooses on their side. So you know, if they only control 1 card, kill it. You can also use it against Unisons to mitigate them from, you know, playing the Unison or resolving the Unison, or just if they choose not to, which is kind of annoying because they can choose to like be like, oh, I'll attack 1 time for the turn, which is sometimes not that devastating. Sometimes when they play the Unison, they're not going off. So that's my only gripe about the card. Triple Ultimate Whirlwind Spin. This is essentially like a bean if used defensively, and it searches this one searches top 5 for a Shadow Dragon battle card. So this doesn't search extra cards, but it's also like a bean defensively. This card's arguably the best card in your deck. Then Double Quake. It's pretty good at removing anything your opponent cheats out. It banishes it till the end of the turn unless your opponent has like X cards. I think it's like 15 cards less in their deck. Otherwise it would destroy it, but at that point it's not really killing anything. So honestly, this is kind of just a way to, like, you know, blink a card on your opponent's field. Ultimate Dragon Tackle, very situational as well too, because it can only be really used against a counterplay of a Unison. I mean, when they have a Unison, sorry. And some decks just don't need a Unison to win sometimes, but if they do, then this guy's really good, especially if you cast them for free, because this one costs 2 as opposed to the other ones that cost 1 to play. So like if you free play this, it's much more value because it's a 2 cost. Then you got the super combos. Of course, you got to play this one because you search it. You got 4 of this. So these are the few cards that you can play for free, that you want to play for free off your Haze Shenron 1-drop. This card, when play, draw a card. Essentially, it's got critical blocker, and it warps one of your opponent's cards, and then it can be switched to active mode at the end of the turn that it that it attacks. And this happens every time. So every turn, it could attack, warp a dude. He attacks with critical 15, and then he restands at end of turn with blocker. So pretty damn good card if you can keep him alive. The next card that we can free play for free is off the 1-drop is this guy, the Negative Energy Explosion. On play, he can pretty much eat a dude. He can eat a battle card with energy cost 5 or less in the battle area or drop area. put it under him, and then he'll absorb the abilities. So he can absorb like critical, double strike. He already has blocker. He only absorbs it until the end of your opponent's next turn, and then other than that, after that, he's just a 20k blocker essentially. And then you got 4 of the Shenron Power of Darkness, and this guy, you can free play him for 1 essentially, but you don't want to play him off the haze, but you can. He's got double strike, and then when he's played, your opponent mills 1. You can also play him for 1 off the spirit boost. So once you spirit boost, this guy can be played for 1, but he's got limit 1, so you can't just spam like a couple of them on the board at the same time. And then the last guy that you play, I think, well, one of the last guys that you can't free play either. You can't free play this off the 1-drop. It has you have to hard cast this guy for 4, double strike barrier blocker, and he's got a spirit boost 1 to restand himself, and your opponent mills 1, and you get the ability to get that free play spirit boost if you want to do that as well too. He's just a really great card, but honestly, you're only playing him like turn 5, turn 4, and you only really need one of these guys on board. He puts in a lot of work, but that's pretty much it. And then this is the MVP of the deck. The reason to play the deck, it's just a topo essentially. It's a topo with blocker that essentially says draw 2 on play. So if he discards a battle card, obviously you draw a card from the effect, and then when he comes into play, he draws you another card essentially. So it's a draw 2 by pitching 1 blocker that mills your opponent 4 every time that they attack. So they have to essentially mill 8 to get a successful attack off if they don't kill him, because you're going to block the first attack essentially with him. And then you got the Corrupted by Darkness SCR, which is searchable because it's Shadow Dragon, so it's the best one to play. And yeah, that's pretty much the entire deck, guys. If you guys want to see the more in-depth profile, make sure you guys check out the Patreon, PBG DBS. Thank you guys again. Till next time.